We still have a few people not on mute, and there's some feedback.
Yeah, so people, if everyone would please mute, we would stop having feedback. Welcome, Pat. We're looking forward to your speech. Thank you for being here. So without further time, we're going to introduce Kirk, who is going to read our club mission. Kirk, you're muted and not visible.
Sorry. I'm trying to find the agenda, Lisa. Sorry. Is it on the, it's on the site, right?
Yeah. I could talk for a few more minutes.
Yeah, go ahead.
It appears to be in the chat. It's in the chat too, I see.
Oh, is it in the chat? Okay.
I see it in the chat.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. All right, here we go.
Thanks
for your wait, guys. Sorry about that. All right, everyone. Club mission. We provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members of the kidney community are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth in order to better advocate for themselves and others. Thank you very much. Back to you, Toastmaster.
So I am the president, and our Toastmaster tonight is Emily. Hi, Emily. Thank you for being here. I will turn the meeting over to your capable hands.
Great. Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. We have a pretty packed agenda, very exciting. I have a Toastmaster first. I'm doing this from my bed because this is part of transplant life, post-transplant life. I have a little infection that I'm fighting right now. So I'm going in between chills and sweating through all my clothes. Hopefully this gets a little better quickly. But because of this, I'm challenging myself and I'm challenging all of you to bring energy tonight. We have two super speakers who will be speaking for quite a while and one first-time speaker who will also be joining us. And we need to bring energy. We need to bring reactions. If you can use your reaction button, if something is funny before our speakers speak, and when they end, you can do jazz hands or clap. And we are also going to take a minute after each speaker, and I want you to give feedback to the speaker. We are here to become better speakers. And even if you haven't given speeches before, you have heard plenty. We are all professional listeners, and we all know when we've heard something good or interesting or thought-provoking, and we have ideas when we've heard too many words or a word that didn't quite make sense or something that we would like to hear more about. So if you can take a minute after those three prepared speakers to provide that, we would very much appreciate it, and our speakers will appreciate it as well. And I am going to turn it over to our thought master, quote master tonight, Christina.
Hi, good evening. Thanks so much, Emily. For tonight's quote, it was inspired by a woman by the name of Tiana Warner. And she mentions that maybe I couldn't help everybody survive, but I could at least save this one life. And those of us on this call that are donors know the importance that you play in people's life and how we wish we could donate more kidneys, but unfortunately we can only have the one. But just know that the impact that you made is, you know, not only on that one person, but, you know, their family and more to come. Thanks so much, Emily.
Thank you, Christina. Appreciate that. Funny story at the ER yesterday. The intake nurse asked me if I had one or both kidneys transplanted. And I was so surprised because I've never heard of a double kidney transplant before. And I said, well, one, the other two were removed. And she said, you can only have two kidneys. Right. I don't know why the math was so confusing for her. And then my mom texted me and said, you need to be nice to everyone. So I changed my attitude. And now, speaking of giving feedback tonight, we also have some people watching who are going to give feedback to all of the speakers, and they have different missions for what they're going to be looking out for. And our general evaluator is overseeing that effort, and that is George. So please welcome George.
Hey, thank you, Emily. We have quite a lineup. First, we're going to have our prepared speeches. Then we will have the short words are
Table topics.
Yeah, table topics. And then at the end, we will have our evaluations of what is going on. Let me first introduce our people on the evaluation team. Our grammarian is Michael Fauntleroy. Michael, tell them what you're going to do.
All right, thank you, George. Hello, fellow Toastmasters, friends, and guests. My role as grammarian is to pay attention to the good use of English and provide constructive feedback for improvements. At the end of the meeting, I'll be up again to give my report. And before that, I'd like to introduce the word of the day. And the word of the day is to help fellow members to enrich their vocabulary in preparing their speeches. And today, the word of today is going to be surreal, and which means very strange or unusual. And I found an example. I still feel surreal in completing all 10 competent communicator speeches within a year. That's kind of surreal, but hopefully that's a challenge that can be done. And you're encouraged to use the word of the day as frequent as you could, and I'll be taking count of that as often. And I'll provide my feedback at the end of the meeting. And back to you, George.
Okay, hey, I muted myself. And next, we have a timer who is going to time all of our speeches and table topics, and that is Mark Royer. Mark, take it away.
Greetings, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. As timer, I will time the table topics, speakers, formal speeches, and evaluations. I will also alert each speaker of the time.
Oh, you just got muted, Mark.
Did you mute yourself?
I don't know what happened there, so my apologies. Greetings, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. As timer, I will time the table topics, speakers, formal speeches, and evaluations. I will also alert each speaker of the time they have left using the green, yellow, and red cards, which denote specific times remaining. Table topics speakers should limit their remarks to no more than 2 minutes. At 1 minute, I will raise the green card. At 1 minute and 30 seconds, I will raise the yellow card. At 2 minutes, I will raise the red card. Those giving speeches should limit their remarks to their specific speech times. Icebreaker speeches should be 4 to 6 minutes in length. At 4 minutes, I will raise the green card. At 5 minutes, I will raise the yellow card. At 6 minutes, I will raise the red card. Most other speeches should be 5 to 7 minutes in length. At 5 minutes, I will raise the green card. At 6 minutes, I will raise the yellow card. At 7 minutes, I will raise the red card. The individual evaluation should be between 2 to 3 minutes. At 2 minutes, I will raise the green card. At 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I will raise the yellow card. At 3 minutes, I will raise the red card. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Okay, very good, Mark. We are next going down to our evaluators. Our first evaluator is Mark Scotch for the first speaker. Mark, what are you going to be looking for?
I'm going to be looking to see if Steve tells a bunch of jokes. No, really. Clarity, vocal variety, eye contact, gestures, audience awareness, comfort level, interest, and speech content.
Very good.
Mark, you better give me good grades because I will pop your bike tires on our next ride.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Thelma Warner. Thelma, say hi.
Hello, how are you? How's everybody? As a speech evaluator, I will offer constructive and encouraging feedback on a prepared speech, my personal opinions of what was done well and what may be improved, and how well the speech met the written objectives. I will record my comments in the speaker's, on an evaluation sheet that is found on the agenda. And I will send that evaluation to the person that I'm, Mark Scott, who I am evaluating. And my oral evaluation should be 2 to 3 minutes. Back to you, Master Toastmaster.
Just general evaluator.
General evaluator, Master General Evaluator. Sorry about that.
Okay, next we have our third evaluator, and that's Gwendolyn Westland. Gwendolyn, please step forward and say hi.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
My name is Gwendolyn Westland, and I'm going to be evaluating, I believe, Pat tonight. And I'm just going to be looking for clarity and eye contact and hopefully some interesting or funny points. Yeah, just giving my personal take on his speech and anything valuable I can add.
Excellent. Very good. We'll be looking forward to that. And I believe that sort of wraps up my team here. And let's turn it back to Emily to continue with introducing the speakers.
Thank you so
very
much. Thank you, George. And I can say it's definitely surreal seeing so many faces while I'm in bed. I'm not quite comfortable with this experience yet. We'll see how I feel in an hour. Mark the timer, since 2 of our speakers are speaking for, was it 18 to 22 minutes? Do you want to tell us when you'll be holding up the green and the yellow and the red? Well, I guess the green will be at 18 minutes.
The green I'll do the green at 18, I guess the yellow at 20, and then the red at 22.
Okay. Do you want to show us the cards, or are you using the screen? Okay, green.
That's green, yellow.
Okay.
Mark,
Perfect. Oh,
Mark, I'm actually 15 to 20, I believe. So
Which one is it?
speech 2.
Okay, yeah. So 15 to 20, I would do. I guess 15 would be green. Say 17 and a half would be yellow.
Sure.
And
That's fine.
20 is red.
okay, sounds good. Thank you very much, Mark. And with that, let me introduce our first speaker of the evening. We will be hearing from Steve Wilson. He will be speaking on the climb of a lifetime. And Mr. Wilson is a non-directed donor. He donated his kidney in February 2016, hooray. And he has been actively involved in the living donor awareness for over 2 years. And I received a living kidney, so I thank you. And I wish my brother was here so he could hear you and get some inspiration to do some advocacy of his own. And when you're ready, if you need to pin the speaker, please do so. Otherwise, we are ready to hear from you, Steve Wilson.
Okay, so should I, thank you for that kind introduction, Emily. Should I share my screen, Lisa? Is that how we'll start?
That sounds great, Steve. Thanks.
Sure. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Well, good evening, folks, and thanks for taking some time on your Sunday evening to hear about the climb of a lifetime. So one of my favorite poets, Maya Angelou, once said that there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you. And tonight, have I got a story for you. The story starts one COVID-infested evening in April of 2020. The setting is not one particular place, but actually several places, because with COVID happening, we couldn't congregate together. We all had to be on a Zoom call. So the setting was actually several different states. The initial 7 protagonists were 7 individuals all from diverse backgrounds with very different personalities, and all whom on that night were very bored, but very rambunctious, and none of them knew they were about to be inspired. But the one commonality they all had was they were all living kidney donors, and they all wanted to raise awareness for living kidney donation. So continue building this mosaic in your mind with me, if you would, and picture this group of 7 competitive people in a winner-take-all Yahtzee tournament. Now, when I say winner-take-all, I'm not really sure what the all was, because it was probably nothing, actually, but playing for something is better than playing for nothing. So we decided that winner would take all, but all would be nothing. But that's kind of beside the point. So I'm not sure what part of the game we were in. I'm not even sure who rolled the dice, but I remember the statement that changed it all. Sarah Hawkins spoke up and said, when COVID is done, Ben, her husband, and I want to climb Kilimanjaro. And we were like, wow. And then Shauna spoke up and said, wow, I would love to do that. I've always wanted to do that. And then Jay Irwin and Emily chimed in and said, you know what? We should make this a group effort and do this as a group with kidney donor athletes. And just like that, lightning struck and the One Kidney Kili climb was founded. So over the next several months, we were all bursting to share our news with the KDA, that's Kidney Donor Athlete community. But there were so many logistics of the trip to work out. We had to secure funding. We had to figure out the appropriate dates we could go. We had to get a tour company, and we had to figure out the main logistic was how many people could the tour company accommodate. And that number turned out to be about 22 people. And over the ensuing months, we interviewed people. There were dozens of applications, but we interviewed people and we spoke with lots of people, and we ended up with a great group of 22 people. So let's fast forward about 15 months to early 2022. The plans were all set, the flights were made, the hotels were made, and we were ready to travel. So right about that time, though, we received a stroke of luck, or should I say a stroke of generosity from the National Kidney Registry. They gave us a very generous grant, and with the money they gave to us, we hired a videographer to climb with us and document our trip. And that he did, and over the next month or so, he is producing a documentary, which I look forward to sharing with the crew. So, but now it's climb time. So we all descended on Tanzania, Africa, about 3 days prior to actually setting off for the climb, setting off for the trek. And I'm going to share with you now over the next 5 or 6 minutes, just some videos. I call it Club Kilimanjaro, and I'm going to take you through what kind of happens on Club Kilimanjaro and compare it to a traditional club or resort on the mainland. So first, how does one train for climbing Kilimanjaro? Well, it depends on the climate you're in. It depends on your family time, your work schedule. But me, for one, I'm not a big fan of outdoors, in the winter. So I did most of my training on a treadmill. I did venture outdoors for 1 or 2 hikes. I wish I had done more, but most of mine was done indoors. Other people, one in particular from, I think it was New Hampshire, she mixed her training time with family time. Let's take a look at that.
It's a beautiful day for Kilimanjaro training. That's right. It is 63 degrees in New Hampshire in February. It's not really that normal. So we are taking advantage. I have on 40 pounds on my day pack that I'll be taking up Kilimanjaro. I'm wearing some gear that was sent to me. I have on my hiking boots, so we're just putting some miles on the shoes safely.
Other people, like my brethren in Colorado, took the more traditional form of training, and they went outdoors because they're used to the 9-degree weather, and they climbed really tall mountains, sometimes with weights on their back, sometimes not. Did somebody say something? Is that coming from my computer?
I don't think so. As people come in, I've been trying to mute them. Just continue. I keep trying.
We'll keep going. So this particular photo was taken on our very last training hike in Colorado, and it was the day that Good Morning America had come out to actually film us doing some hiking, and they did a feature story of us, which appeared on March 10th, which was World Kidney Day. So once all the hiking was done and the planning was done, now let's go examine what it's actually like on Club Kilimanjaro. So we first got to the hotel, as I said, a couple of days before we actually set out on the hike. So what did people do when we got to the hotel? Well, we did a couple of things. Let's take a brief look. Some people went on a safari. This is our current president, Natalie. Other people went on a coffee tour, which is one of the things I did. We went and saw how the locals produced coffee from the time they plant the beans to taking it off the tree. We got to take it off the tree, grind it, bake it, brew it. And actually, when I had a cup, I don't think I slept for the ensuing 4 days. Other people like to hang around and try some of the local fruits of the nectar. I think this was a fresh papaya juice here that Patty's drinking, but there was so much wonderful fresh juice in Tanzania. Most of us hung around the pool a lot of the time during the day prior to leaving. Now, despite being in Kilimanjaro, every now and then a Greek god showed up around the pool, and his name was Greek god J. Irwin. He showed up around the pool, and this is Jay. He's a longtime kidney donor athlete. And listen, let's be real. If I looked like Jay, I'd probably wear the same bathing suit that Jay does. So, but that's our time before. But it was finally time to set out and begin our hike. So what do people do? What do 22 kidney donors do when they get to the base of Kilimanjaro and they know they're about to have a long hike, which really lacks those essentials like running water and restaurants and things like that? And what we did was we ate. We had a fantastic spread of food that the tour company or the head porters put together for us. So we'll take a look and see if all that food was there. It was what I call the Last Supper. And take a note here. This is the base of Kilimanjaro. Take note of all the vegetation around here because you'll see in a couple slides that disappears rather quickly.
Salami, we have eggs, we have boiled potatoes, we have apples, we have codmon, we have biscuits, we have salad here and fruits.
So that's the lunch when you arrive at Club Kilimanjaro. Now, like every posh club, it's going to have its bellhops to carry your luggage for you. And Kilimanjaro is no different, except they're not called bellhops, they are called porters. And in our climbing group, we had 22 people, 22 climbers, that is. We had 108 porters to assist us. Our job is to climb. Their job is to do everything else, from carry our tents, to set up our tents, carry all the food, the water, the bathroom supplies. That's their job. And we're going to take a look at, they do it so well. Now, out of these 108 guys, I'm serious when I say I never saw or heard one of them complain. They always had a smile on their face. Let's take a brief look at these guys. Now, this is a very formal ceremony. This video is taken right from the lunchroom where we just had our Last Supper. But you see, here's just a few of the porters, but I point this one out. This gentleman will walk the next several hours with roughly, I'm going to call it probably 70 pounds or so between his back and his head, but this is not tied down to anything. It's just balanced on his head. So, but still, if you pass him, he's got a smile on his face. So once the 108 porters make their way up this path, then we follow them and we hike our first day. And again, notice the vegetation here. So once we hiked for the first day, what we learned when we got up to the campsite and sat down to have our first dinner at Kilimanjaro, there are two customs at Club Kilimanjaro that really don't happen anywhere else. The first custom is you get a physical evaluation before every meal. They test our pulse, they test our oxygen, and this is a fairly competitive group of people. So there were times when these evaluations got pretty heated, but let's take a look and so you can see what I mean here.
94, pulse 87.
Oh, yeah.
87. Pulse 87. I wanted 95.
She wanted a 95 oxygen level. Don't know if she got it, but those competitions got pretty heated. Now, the second thing that happens before every meal, before every dinner at Mount Kilimanjaro or Club Kilimanjaro, is that each dinner party guest has to announce the detailed gastrointestinal activity for the day, including color, size, consistency, frequency. And the reason they do that is I'm not really too sure of the reason they do that, but I guess there has some health meaning behind it. But once we all announce our biological functions for the day, it's time to eat. And it's amazing what these chefs could do. Again, like any club resort on the mainland, Kilimanjaro, Club Kili is no exception. They come with top-notch chefs. And what these guys can do without running water, without refrigerators or electricity on the mountain is just amazing. Let's take a look. This is the mess tent. And as you can see, it's lighted by a couple of spotlights up top. Here are two chefs, and let's see what they have tonight.
They are chefs.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
They are happy to make fish, and they are.
Okay, so that's the dinner, what happens there. And every dinner, every meal really consisted of some appetizers, some main course, and always a dessert, typically in the form of some fruit. But again, we also had some vegans on the trip, so they were very accommodative with that as well. Now let's move along to the accommodations at Club Kilimanjaro. I wouldn't quite say they were 5-star. I really wouldn't say they were any star, but let's see what the accommodations look like here.
Into the hotel area, you can see our tents all been set up. There's the mess hall.
The mess hall in the background. Now, one thing I'd like you to take note here again, this is campsite on night 1, all the vegetation here. It was really, each day the vegetation got more sparse. And what was so interesting is that every night when we were sleeping, there were all sorts of crazy sounds around. Most of them were coming from the tent of Jay Irwin. But on the first night in particular, there were so many sounds, not coming from the tents, but rather coming from the trees here. And what those sounds were monkeys swinging from tree to tree. And they were having conversations all night long with each other. So it was pretty impressive. But as you'll see here, again, very plush with vegetation. The ground is flat at this site, but the accommodations get a little more perilous as we go on. I think by about night 3 or 4, they became downright dangerous. Let's take a look.
On the background there. So we're looking forward to a great dinner. And we'll check in later on. Well, kids, he amongst us who sleepwalks is
Can you imagine, Steve, this tent down here in the front on the other two?
you're gone. You're falling 500 feet.
Now, the video doesn't really do it justice, but the tents are scattered about the boulders, but this is a really steep incline here. And if you have to get out of your tent to use the facility or something, it can be very perilous. So again, most people just did what they had to do in their tent, into a jar, and just took care of things in the morning. So let's continue on. What did people do? What did we do for fun on Kilimanjaro? So of course we hiked, but there was a lot of free time at Club Kili. So like any club, what do you do if you're at any club, or if you go on a cruise? You do a lot of singing and dancing. Let's take a look at some of the singing and dancing, which we did before breakfast, before lunch, before dinner. We sang, we danced all the time.
Holy smokes.
So again, that was a typical day, breakfast, lunch, and just dancing all day long. Now, as with any posh club, Kilimanjaro also brings in talent, and they actually brought in the Bee Gees to perform for us. So I'm going to share with you here the Bee Gees rendition of a Journey song called "Don't Stop Believing."
Oh, there you go.
So those of you who are close to my age would certainly remember the Bee Gees. So let's see. Well, it's not all singing and dancing on Kilimanjaro. There's got to be other activity as well. And every now and then a soccer game breaks out.
Soccer game is broken out. Our illustrious president is joining the game.
That is Bobby McLaughlin, our president, and also the person who put the most time into this this wonderful expedition, and we thank him profusely. Now, the problem with a soccer game on Kilimanjaro, as you might suspect, if somebody misses the ball, it may roll 3 or 4 miles downhill, and tends to make for a very short soccer game. So once the soccer game is over, what does everybody do? They head to the casino on Club Kilimanjaro. Let's check out the casino.
Like a Rolling Stone, here we go. I'm gonna put in my smallest stone.
I'm folding, I'm done.
5, 6, 7.
Man's got to know his limitations.
9, 10, show him.
That is our casino on Club Kilimanjaro. And we played there until we were completely stoned. And then, no, I'm kidding about that. So then what do? After that, we go to the nightclub and watch the performers go. And really, it wasn't a nightclub. It was more like a day club. But let's take a look at the performers. And I mean this completely serious. This is the 108 porters to which I referred earlier. They were fantastic. Let's take a look. So that was our nightclub performance. Now a couple of more slides just to see, you now see the vegetation has completely disappeared. To me, it's my interpretation of what the moonlight might look like if we were walking on the moon. And then what happens is summit night. So summit night is literally the toughest night many of the climbers will spend their entire life. Over a 36-hour period, there is approximately 18 to 20 hours of hiking, about 2 hours of sleep, about 5,000 feet of elevation to ascend, about 10,000 feet of elevation to descend, and the most brutal winds and cold that you'll ever want to experience. But let's see what happens on the way up to summit night or prior to summit night.
Not sure what day it really is, but
My apologies. This is one more. Mark Twain once said that if you want the weather to change on Kilimanjaro, wait 10 minutes. And which is in fact what happened during this day. Many times during this day, we were wearing shorts and t-shirts. And then the weather changed on a dime and it started, I'm not even sure if that's snow or hail, but it started coming down pretty heavily.
Sort of storm here. We've got about 2 more hours of hiking. We did about 4. Now we just went 5 this morning, I think. 2 hours more of hiking today. Hopefully the weather changes. But we're all having a good time. We're all still together.
And now it's a few hours before summit night.
Well, tonight's for all the marbles. It's about 6:30. We're gonna try to get a few hours sleep. We get a wake-up call at 10:45. We have a little late night snack, and we hit the trails for about a 7-hour climb to the summit. This has been an epic experience. We've enjoyed every minute of it, and we'll see you at the top.
And this is summit night. You'll see some of the attitudes of people change pretty quickly. And this is the G-rated version.
Hey there. It is about 2:55 a.m. We're probably about a third of the way there, you think, Andrea?
I have no idea.
No, we're getting there.
Try not to think about it.
You can see Andrew was in a really good mood that night.
About a third of the way there. We're all still together, plugging away.
Now, we're going to digress a little bit as we wind down the last couple of slides. Kilimanjaro, although it's not a technical climb, it does have its dangerous moments. And every year, regrettably, people go to Kilimanjaro and don't come home. So this is a Barranco wall. It's about the most dangerous part of Kilimanjaro. But you'll see, if somebody slips up there, it could become a problem. Now, we didn't come off the hill completely unscathed. We did have one casualty. This is Janie. She fell while hiking.
Janie took a dive. Well, taking a pee.
No, actually, I was done. I was trying to pass these guys to catch up, which was a mistake.
Janie actually ended up having surgery on her wrist. She's still in a cast, but coming along nicely. After all that, we ultimately hit the summit. Complete emotional experience. I'll never forget it. This picture is one of my favorites ever. The only problem now is we've got 10,000 feet to descend over the next several hours, which is tough. So to wind this up, we now have got to walk down, but it's as emotional when we get to the finish line as it was when we got to the top, or almost. Some of us had personal porters. I had a personal porter because he carried my bags. Several other people had a personal porter because it makes the trip for us older people a lot more enjoyable, because these bags can be 20 pounds, but at the end of this trip can be very emotional. That is my personal porter, Pasco.
Give me a hug, baby. You're the best. We don't do this without you. You're the best. All right? I love you. You're the best. Hell of a job.
Now that is very emotional because there are two adult gentlemen that have not had a shower in about 8 or 9 days, but didn't care. It was just a wonderful hug. I'll never forget Pasco. And what do any good mountaineers do? As soon as they get off the mountain, they go right to the watering hole and they have a party, which is what we did. You'll see some people getting very friendly with wine bottles here, other people up singing with the performers. And guys, that was the climb of a lifetime. I may have gone a couple minutes over. My apologies if I did. Does anybody have any questions, or do we have any time for any questions?
I don't know that we have time for questions, but we can have anyone who wants to message you if they have anything they want to ask.
I have a question.
Oh,
please.
All right, go ahead.
Steve, this is Mark. I just need to know, are you going to have a personal bike rider for the next bike ride or not?
It is. I am going to have one. His name is going to be Mark Scotch. So, guys, thank you very much. I may have, again, gone a little bit over, but please, criticism.
I thought it was fantastic. Thank you so much for taking us through your journey, and I mean, truly a journey, and showing us what it's really like. I don't think this is something that most of us will ever experience. So I really appreciate it. And I think it was Adam Grant who said that people that it isn't climbing the mountain that's impressive, it's climbing down the mountain, because that's when you hear the story.
And
so congratulations for getting down.
I agree with that. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
If we could put a minute on the clock, if anyone wants to send comments, criticism, suggestions to Steve in the chat, please do so. To the timer, can we have a minute? Could you time us?
Thank you, guys. Well, guys, I certainly appreciate all that feedback. Thank you very much. I thoroughly enjoyed putting this together. And I also want to thank our videographer, Tom Rasick, from Summit Point Productions. He assisted me in putting this. He didn't assist me. He put this together for me, the video piece. Most of them were my videos and pictures, but he put it together, of course.
Madam Toastmaster, the 1 minute timer has expired.
All right, thank you so much. I'm still writing my comments. Apologies, I don't type fast enough, I guess. All right, great. Thank you, Steve. Again, round of applause to Steve. Excellent. And congratulations. And our next speaker tonight is, let's see, we're Mark Scotch. We'll be hearing from Mark several times today. And Mark is speaking on the Oregon Trail 4.0, sea level to 8,000 feet and back. And this is a Pathways Motivational Strategies speech. It will be 15 to 20 minutes. And Mark is a 66-year-old living kidney donor. He rides bicycle. Oh, this is why we were hearing about bicycles. He rides bicycle thousands of miles, creating awareness for the urgent and dire need for living donors and to demonstrate post-donation functionality. Excellent message. So please welcome Mark Scotch to the podium, virtual podium.
Okay, Lisa, need to share?
You should be good.
Is it up?
It's up.
Okay. So Steve, that was
Mark,
great.
I'm sorry. Make sure that there you go.
Steve, that was a great job. So I'm going to be talking about my surreal Oregon Trail 4.0, sea level to 8,000 feet and back. So this ride basically started in San Diego and ended in Lubbock, Texas. And it's on a bicycle. And what I do is try to hit some of the major transplant facilities along the way. The sea level part was pretty easy. We're along the ocean, and the climb out of Phoenix to Payson was the 8,000 feet and beyond. So I guess I just have some stats up there. So this is myself on the bike and our son, Nick. This is actually a screenshot from a video that Lynn took, my wife took. And Nick was down below and kind of at that guardrail actually, and it was just kind of running with me because he was pretty excited about it. So the climb wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it was plenty. And it was two days of climbing. So what is the Oregon Trail? Well, the Oregon Trail really is a story of my kidney donation and the advocacy efforts of my wife, Lynn, and I. So why do I ride? Well, we created the Oregon Trail, a kidney donation journey, to inform as many people as possible across the country about the urgent and dire need for living kidney donors. And we want to dispel certain myths about donation in this day and age, like having to be a blood match or a tissue match. That's not really necessary anymore due to kidney pools. And we try to educate people on the latest updates concerning kidney transplants, such as the voucher program, which does away with the whole idea of a blood and tissue match. And a big aspect of the ride is to demonstrate donation functionality, which means I'm a guy with one kidney riding bike and trying to demonstrate that people can go back to their normal lifestyle after they donate a kidney, just like Steve did climbing up Kili. So our goal, and one of the main goals, is to generate as much media attention as possible. So up in the top left is Hugh Smith, the guy that I met down in Louisiana a couple years ago. He was a stranger, and we're down in his hometown in Natchitoches. We're doing a radio interview. Top right is in Albuquerque, and Pat O'Brien, he'll be speaking later. He's there. That's right before we went on a TV show to talk about the Oregon Trail and his need for a kidney. Bottom left, we do things called proclamations and accommodations and citations. We try to get local politicians involved because where politicians go, media follows. So we try to get that aspect of it as well. And then bottom right was a thing called USA Today Humankind. And that's another aspect of the ride that was a big bonus for us, and just creating more attention. Some real quick facts about kidney transplant for you that might be new to this and don't really know some of the backstory. When I was looking to donate my kidney, I learned these things, and this was what really got me on my bike, because I didn't know any of this, and it just surprised me that I didn't. And I thought there's possibly thousands, maybe millions of people that really don't know these facts. And if they did know these facts, there's a better chance that maybe some of them would step forward to become living donors. So 1 out of 750 people are born with one kidney, and most of them don't even know it till later in life. I always assumed that somehow if a person needed a kidney, they got it. And I assumed it was through the deceased donor program, like most of us probably have on our driver's license. But I found out that only 3 out of 1,000 people die in such a way that their organs can be used. And that leads us to the next point. 13 people die every day waiting for a kidney transplant. So obviously the deceased donor method isn't keeping up. So we need living donors. 3,000 more people are added to the wait list every month. Over 90,000 or over 95,000 people are currently on the wait list right now. So on all of our Oregon Trail rides, we have a lot of moving parts in the background, and this can start months in advance. So I like to mention my buddy, Mark Bruner. Him and I have been friends since before first grade. And this ride, a fellow living kidney donor from Wisconsin, Bill Barthen, was a major part of our media effort. He's in the lower left. Mark is in the upper right. And I also try to reach out to transplant hospitals, like I said earlier. And top left is Ernie Villon from USC Keck. He helped me put on the event there. And Helen and Bill Mills, there's tons of people that help do this. I also reached out to a group called Knights of Columbus for lodging. They help with media events in their towns. They also helped with meals. Toastmasters helped. I've done some Oregon Trail presentations through Toastmasters besides tonight. NKDO was represented real strong by Suzanne Verge. Suzanne lives in Santa Monica. She basically single-handedly put on an event I'm going to talk about in a couple minutes. And then I also got involved with VFW through a family friend called Michael Lynn. And then NKR is, of course, huge support, National Kidney Registry. So the UCLA core group that Suzanne put together, she's part of NKDO. And when she heard I needed help and was looking for volunteers, she volunteered. She lives right out in Santa Monica. She donated a kidney as well out in California. And she basically put on the whole event. The first top left, that's Suzanne and I. We're at the Bruin Center on UCLA campus. That's where we had our event. The next slide shows Dr. Rastogi. He's one of the major surgeons, one of the surgeons at UCLA, but Lynn and myself and Suzanne. And then we left from Suzanne's house in the morning, did a bike ride through Santa Monica up to the UCLA campus and had an event there. So that's just one example of what we try to do on the Oregon Trail. We went to San Diego. This is where the ride really started. UCLA was a one-day event on Saturday, the 19th of March. The 21st is when we really started the bike ride. This was San Diego. So top left is people in San Diego from the Knights of Columbus. We started with Mass in the morning and the local priest did a blessing and we took off from San Diego. These are just some shots from there. Next, we went to UC Irvine. And Bill and Helen Mills were very instrumental in getting us involved there. Lower left is Dr. Reddy on the right next to me, the tall guy with glasses. He basically put the event on. In the middle and in the left is a guy with a hand over his heart. That is Dr. Donald Defoe. And his brother is Willem Dafoe, the movie star. And the Defoes grew up in Appleton, Wisconsin. So we had some fun talking about Wisconsin and having a good time there at UC Irvine. USC Keck, again, Ernie's there. He's a living kidney donor coordinator. I mean, he's a coordinator at USC Keck. So we got to ride bike about 20 miles from Suzanne's house to USC Keck, went through Los Angeles. And on the right is another aspect of the ride. On the left is a person to our left in that right picture is Terry Hutton. He's looking for a kidney as well. And we tried to get his story out. So that's another part of the moving part of the Oregon Trail, the moving parts. We also had a little event there that Lisa knows a little bit about. And she can talk more about that later, but we got USA Today, Humankind involved. And Lisa met her donor for the very first time while we're out there, and we were lucky to be there for that day. Then we moved on down to Anaheim and we got the VFW involved. This is Mike Lynn. He's a half brother to my sister Mary, and he started talking to me, and we thought about putting on an event at his VFW where he's the commander. He presented a citation for the Oregon Trail and just an idea of different ways to get the message out about living kidney donation. I looked at every opportunity I could. Loma Linda actually didn't want to do anything with us. It didn't work out for them, but my brother Gary there on the left, him and I were riding. We got into Loma Linda after almost a full day of riding. It was really hot. We saw this Irish bar on the trail right off the bike path. We popped in there, started talking to people. They were having lunch. Who are they? They're all from Loma Linda. So we ended up having a meeting with Loma Linda anyway. It was kind of a little bit unstructured. Went to Palm Springs where my sister Mary was involved. We had a media event there. This was some really fun riding. Just an area that was cool. We're starting to get into the desert now. I went to Indio, California, local Knights of Columbus. I've reached out to many different councils along the way, and 6 of them volunteered to host us for lodging and invited us to their fish dinner. This happened to be a Friday night, so it worked out really well. Again, another aspect. So the desert crossing was 2 days. Was the first day I got up to 100 degrees, second day was around 92. I tried to stay off the interstate as much as possible. There was really only one road from Indio to Blythe, California. And my brother, Gary, he was a little bit, he had hip surgery not that long ago. So he was on the interstate more than I was, but I was trying to follow these maintenance roads, and I ended up doing quite a bit of walking actually. Then we got into Phoenix and we had a great event at the Mayo Clinic. You can learn more about this on my website and Facebook page, but they put on a very cool event. We had a drone, we did a flag raising, we did all kinds of cool things there. This is just some random media. Top left is from coming into Phoenix. That was TV. The middle top was a radio podcast, about 30 minutes. So we really got to be able to get in depth on some things about organ donation. Bottom left, Hugh Smith flew into Phoenix. He's the guy that I met in Louisiana. And a radio or a TV station did a story on us there. Top right is in Albuquerque. We did a Donate Life flag raising, and bottom right was a TV station again in Phoenix, if I remember right. And they had me come in from outside, come in, make a big turn on that floor there, and hopefully, and I'm glad I didn't fall down. And we did a little interview right in the TV set. So it was kind of fun. So Phoenix to Pie Town, that was the big climb. So Phoenix is at about 1,100 feet. Pie Town, New Mexico is right around 8,000. So this is 2 days of climbing, and this gives you some idea of the scenery. Albuquerque, again, we had an event with Pat and his wife Nancy. TV, we had a couple different, we had 2 different TV stations, I think, and we had a bike ride, had, 2 different transplant facilities, and did flag raisings at both. Bottom right is Selena, forgot her last name, but she's from Donate Life, and Pat and I raised a flag and said a few words. New Mexico is pretty cool. Once you climb up to Payson, Arizona, it stays pretty flat. It's a lot of up and down, but the elevation is still around 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 feet. One morning in the middle, I got up right at daylight because there was supposed to be super high winds in the afternoon. They were going to be tail crosswinds, and I didn't want to run the risk of getting blown into traffic. So I got up early, and the wind stayed pretty good all day. So I ended up doing 120 miles that day. It was a fun ride. For a while, I was averaging 20 miles an hour on my mountain bike. Lynn tracked me for 1 hour. I was doing a little over 21 miles an hour, right at 21 miles an hour. So I was still pedaling, but we had a good wind too. And we were kind of starting to go downhill a little bit. So that helped quite a bit. And we got to Lubbock, Texas, and that was the end of this ride. And I don't usually talk about the ride so much when I'm talking about the Oregon Trail, but for tonight, I thought I'd get into a little more detail about the ride itself. But Lubbock, Texas was a spot that I picked because from Albuquerque to Dallas, it's about halfway between, and it's the first major town we got to in Texas. And the Oregon Trail next spring, about this time, a little bit earlier maybe, I'm going to be finishing this ride. It's going to go from Lubbock to New Orleans. It's basically to trace the travel of Hugh's kidney. My buddy Hugh, from Louisiana, his kidney came from Southern California. So that's what this ride is really about. So if you want to learn more about the Oregon Trail, I've got a Facebook page called the Oregon Trail. I've got a website. Go to markscotch.com, read about more aspects of kidney donation. If anybody's interested in learning more about how this works, learn how to be an advocate. Not everybody can be a living donor, but learn how to become a living donor, learn how to advocate. learn about the voucher program, all good stuff. NKDO, National Kidney Donation Organization. They're an organization that helped mentor me through my donation. And that's what they do. People who have been there try to help other people to donate. And there's people that are also recipients in the group too. So we help from both sides, recipients, but primarily donors. Donate Life, if everybody could check their driver's license, make sure that they're at least going to donate if there's something would ever happen to them. You know, you can't take those organs with you, and it'd be fantastic if more people could do this as well. So key facts about kidney transplant for living donors. You can actually save someone's life. And that's as simple as it gets, but it's a pretty big deal for that person. You don't need to be a match. You don't need to know the recipient. If I would ever need a kidney, if Steve would ever need a kidney, we would be given top priority to receive a kidney. So that's good to know. No cost to the donor, can get back to work in weeks. And just like Steve and I, you can return to a normal lifestyle. And this is a club, just some club information here. And I'll leave it open for any questions at this point in time.
Thank you so much, Mark. Really appreciate it. That was excellent. I think if anybody has questions, maybe we can have them ask them in the comments. And if the timer would put a minute on the clock, we can give our audience time to give feedback. And I want to apologize that Loma Linda wasn't so helpful. They did my transplant and they did a great job. So maybe they were busy doing other people's transplants and couldn't help you.
I have a question about how long my journey was. Well, I've had 3 rides so far. It's been about 3 weeks for each ride. I'm covering anywhere from 1,300 to 16 miles on each ride. I have 1 more ride to do before I would say the Oregon Trail is maybe over, but that's kind of that. Thanks for the tips.
Mark, you had said that Loma Linda didn't really want to host you because they didn't think that they could get enough of a crowd to do you justice. Is that correct?
I don't know, Lisa. It just didn't work out. There's a lot of reasons why. Most of it had to do with COVID. Some facilities were more cautious. Some facilities were still having more cases. So COVID entered into a lot, and it was also Donate Life Month. People already had things going on. So there was a multitude of reasons why transplant facilities may or may not want to participate.
Great, thank you.
Did you have many donors recruited?
Hard to say. I don't know. I don't ask people to be a donor. I don't think that's an asked question. That's I just give information and tell my story. And I think it's too personal to, it's too big a deal. And if people aren't really going to do this on their own, I think that's it. They just need to do it on their own. I think it's something that people need to think about and not have any pressure. If they do get any pressure when they go to get evaluated at these hospitals, it's probably going to come out that they might feel a little intimidated or pressured or whatever. So I don't do that personally. I don't feel good about that. So I just tell my story and give the facts and let people do what they want to do. Not everybody can be a donor, and timing has a lot to do with it. I heard about this at 64. Jody, my sister-in-law, had donated 12 years before that, and I never asked her one question about it. I had no interest in it. But I met one guy on a random thing, and look what happened. So who knows?
All right.
Mark, one question which as I am reaching out as part of my outreach for donors, people do ask like how soon donors can get back to normal life. I know your story is inspiring. Steve's story was very inspiring too. And those are great examples. And you guys, all of you who have donated are role models. But would like to know how soon you got back to your normal life after you donated.
Well, for me, I think within a couple of weeks, I was doing pretty good. I was back on the bike almost a month doing some light riding, just taking it easy. I was on a weight restriction. They didn't want me to lift anything over 10 pounds for the first 6 to 8 weeks because of a chance of hernia, because they have to make an opening to get the kidney out. So the first few days, I definitely felt it. I was only in the hospital one night. I could have definitely spent 2 nights there, but I felt good. So I went home. But when I got home, I felt a little bit rougher. So it just, everybody's different. I think after a week, I was feeling pretty good though, but I did have a certain amount of pain. It wasn't my abdomen. It was more high in my back. It's typically when they has to do with nerves in your shoulder, I think is what, and there's a gas they put in your abdomen when they do the surgery to kind of blow everything up in there, and they take the gas out. Not all the gas gets out, and it can cause that pain. So that bothered me more than anything, but it wasn't super serious.
Okay. Thanks for sharing.
And thank you, everyone. I think we're going to cut off the questions for now, but we'll have our speakers stay after. At the end, we can do Q&A then. And we just want to make sure that we stay on track with our agenda. And we have a third speaker now who is going to be joining us, and we heard a little bit about him. It is Pat O'Brien, and he will be delivering his icebreaker speech. And his title is Trying to Make the Best of Living with Kidney Disease. This is a 4 to 6 minute speech. And Pat has spent a lifetime active in outdoor sports. Boy, this is a theme tonight. With friends and family, and now he's especially busy with his grandkids. 2 years ago, he began dialysis, something also familiar to a lot of us. And despite having to slow down some, he's trying to make the best of a challenging situation. We're very appreciative to hear from Pat tonight. Pat, when you're ready, please begin.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, I sure enjoyed hearing Steve share and Mark share, and I was listening to Steve thinking, that sounds really hard, but I was really impressed. All those people made it up, which is great. But my name is Pat O'Brien, as I was introduced. I found out I had kidney disease about 40 years ago, and I was about 25 at the time, so I'm 65 now. And I wanted to join the Air Force, and so I went through all the testing. I wanted to become a pilot, and everything was looking great till I had the physical, and it turned out my blood pressure was a little high, and I had protein in my urine. So because of that, I couldn't join any of the branches. So it was a little disappointing, but it was good. I mean, there's a silver lining here that I found out that I had kidney disease. I went to the doctor, and unfortunately, the doctor said, you're going to be on dialysis in 5 to 7 years. And at the time, I was only 25. So my wife and I said, well, gee, what do we do? You know, so we prayed about it, and by God's grace and by a low sodium diet, lots of exercise to keep the blood pressure down. I didn't need dialysis until just a couple of years ago, which is great. It's really fortunate because I got to have a family. I got to do things with my kids, do sports, go camping, have a career, travel, you know. So I feel really fortunate that I've had all of that time, even though my kidney function was decreasing, I could still be active, which is nice. And so so during that time, the function did go down, and finally 2 years ago, it got to the point where I needed to go on dialysis. And fortunately, I was able to get onto the transplant list too. And I do dialysis at home, which is another blessing. I did it in the center for about a year, and I've been doing it, I guess, a year and a half in the center and about 6 months at home. And my wife is my caregiver, and I do it 5 days a week, about 4 hours each time, but I get to do it. And if I'm thirsty, I can have a cup of tea, and I can have some crackers or watch TV or talk to my wife. It's really nice. So despite taking up a lot of time, it's pretty nice, you know. But it does it does take a lot of time, and it does take a toll on my body. I'm a little tired afterwards, but it allows me to stay active, and which I'm grateful for. I've always been pretty active, like it said in the intro. We've always liked to camp and hike and go biking and hiking and go to the beach. I used to surf quite a bit and stuff. And so with the kidney disease, it kind of slowed me down a bit, but I would like to get back to at least some of those activities. Currently, my wife and I, we went through training to become biblical counselors. So we counsel, our church has a counseling ministry, and we counsel couples and young men and young women that are going through hard times. And it gives us a chance to come alongside and just walk down that road with them, which is nice. And so this is kind of a season of my life where I'm doing less of those active things and more, maybe more sedentary things, but they're still good things. But I would like to get back to some of those more active things too. One active thing my wife and I just started doing last summer was we learned how to play pickleball. And I don't know if any of you have ever played it. It's a cross between tennis and badminton. And it's kind of funny, and we're not very good at it, but we end up laughing quite a bit, and it's very social. And you get the heart rate up a little bit, so you get a little bit of exercise from it. So it's fun. So we're trying to stay as active as we can. I also ride bikes a bit. Matter of fact, when Mark came through town, I joined him on part of his ride, and we actually rode from one transplant center to the other. And so it was fun, but I had to get a e-bike to be able to keep up with my friends, just because I don't have quite as much stamina as I used to. Now, one of my favorite activities is playing with and being with our grandkids. We have two. Our grandson's 8, our granddaughter's 2, and we have another one on the way. And these guys are very active. They're like the Energizer bunnies, and until bedtime hits, and then they just crash. But because of my kidney disease, I have trouble, keeping up with them as much as I would like. And so what I'm really hoping for is a kidney transplant. And I'm hoping that'll free up more of my time and give me more energy to play with my kids and get to be active once more, And so I'm hoping to find a living donor and receive a transplant. That's my story.
All right, thank you so much, Pat. And a round of applause for Pat giving his icebreaker speech. This is what we say is the hardest speech to give in Toastmasters. So well done. You are a natural speaker. And if ever anyone wants to give feedback to Pat in the comments, our timer will put 1 minute on the clock. I think our minute is up. Thank you very much, everyone. That ends our prepared speeches portion of the meeting. So a round of applause to our 3 speakers tonight who did an excellent job and really showed us what life is like before a transplant and as a donor. Very inspiring speeches and lots of talk about outdoor sports. I feel super lazy. So thank you all. And we are now going to turn this over to the more participatory portion of our meeting, and that is table topics. And please welcome our table topics master, Nikita Frazier.
Hello, I'm going to start picking on you guys and asking you guys questions. My first question is for Christina. My question to you is, what was the most surreal dream you've ever had?
A surreal dream? Oh my gosh. I would say one of the most surreal dreams I had was right after the transplant. I don't typically take medication, and all the medication they had me on in the hospital, it gave me really bad nightmares. And I had this surreal dream that, you know, my aunt didn't take to her kidney, and I was just devastated because, you know, I went through all, you know, the whole process, and, you know, I did this essentially so she didn't have to live without her son. And the thought of losing her would just, it broke my heart and it killed me. But yeah, it was very vivid, and I hope to never have a dream like that again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My next question is for, let's see, I'm going to say Pat. My question for you is, and since we're on the theme of sports, I'm like a floating head. What sport would you play professionally if given the chance?
You're on mute.
You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, you're on mute.
Okay, I'll say it again. I would probably want to be a professional football player, maybe a wide receiver. And that would also be part of a surreal dream, to be able to run really fast like those guys run.
Okay, thank you very much, Pat. That's cool. Okay, let's see, Kirk. What is your favorite memory from childhood?
Favorite memory from childhood. I was just actually talking about this with my girlfriend the other day, where there was a strip of land that was behind my best friend's house across the street. And it was a strip of land that was basically the woods. We called it our workshop, and it was a place that we played and just got lost. It was kind of our own world back there. And that's where we would go back to kind of escape and hide from everyone and play the games that we wanted to play. And you know, it was just kind of another world for us. And we just got to explore our imaginations back there and play in ravines, and no one would bother us. And it was just a fantastic place to just escape. And as an adult, it kind of is one of those things that's hard for us to I guess recreate, as our ability to imagine decreases. We have to escape to bigger lands like Mount Kilimanjaro.
Thank you for that. That's really cool. Like, I had a similar conversation this weekend with a friend about just being able to explore the backwoods of my house, and it's just kind of like you're on this adventure. So that's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Michael, I have a question for you. What language would you love to learn?
I would love to learn Spanish. When I was in junior high school and high school, I had a lot of Hispanic friends, and I took Spanish in junior high school, and we talked Spanish quite often. And then as we got older, everybody moved away. So my network got smaller and smaller, and my use of the language, my knowledge of the language just kind of disappeared. And I really miss not being able to speak Spanish as I was able to when I was in school. So I'd really love to learn how to speak that a little more fluently.
Thank you. Let's see.
Hi, Nikita. Let's do 2 more table
Okay.
topics. All right, thank you.
So my question is for Thelma. What famous person would you love to meet and what would you ask them?
Well, the famous person that I would have loved to have met, because he is deceased, is Michael Jackson. I have an obsession with him, and I watch all the videos on Instagram with him because I just thought he was the most talented individual anybody could have ever met. And just seems like he had so much to give and he died too young. So I'd like to ask him, what else do you have in your repertoire that was not exposed while you were alive, but you could share with us if you could now? And I think he would have had quite a bit. So Michael Jackson is the star that I would have loved to have met.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think that way about Prince too. Like, I wonder just how much they have like hidden, that they haven't finished yet. Yeah. All right, last question I have would be for Lisa. What did you want to be when you were young and why?
That's a great question. I always actually wanted to be a beautician, and I wanted to do hair. I had a little doll, a tressie, and the hair would come out of the top of her head and you can make it various lengths. And I always thought that it would be really neat to be able to know how to style long hair. And one day I was telling my grandfather that I had this dream about being a mortician, and he was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I want to do hair. And he's like, well, a mortician really takes care of the dead. And somehow that burst my dream. So I stopped wanting to be a beautician and became a speech pathologist instead. So thank you for your delightful question.
Yeah, very good. Okay, I am done with my questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nikita. Great answers. And we will now turn it over to our general evaluator to review the evaluations, hear what we did wrong, what we could do better.
Very good. Let's bring it over to our evaluators. I'm going to start with the evaluations for the speeches, and then we'll get to our grammarian and timer to wrap it up. First of all, our first speaker was Steve Wilson, and his evaluator was Mark Scotch. Scotch, tell us what you observed.
Well, I think Steve started out very good with developing interest and anticipation. He started out slow, and I could just feel it ramping up as he went. And it was kind of interesting because I was thinking, come on, get with it, dude. Let's get to the good stuff. But he created a good anticipation, I thought. His voice inflection was great, no doubt. It's a great storyteller. He makes good eye contact. Great video support with the slide or with the video, obviously. Great humor. The only thing I would recommend, and I did this on my first Toastmaster speech, or I didn't do it, and somebody told me, and because I kind of didn't know who I was speaking to and why when I first started Toastmasters, which was a whole month ago, but I would include a little more about the message of why you were up there. You told it in a story, but a picture or two in your video, it's just something facts or whatever, you know, your story a little bit maybe. Anyway, but obviously, as we can tell from looking at Steve, he's very comfortable. He made it fun to listen to. And the thing that I tried to watch more than Steve actually was Meg's response to most of what he was saying, because I was trying to get the bullshit indicator out there and see what she was doing. But so I think it was a very good talk and very interesting. And it was a good cause, obviously, and it's something a little bit odd that we most of us may never do. So it's that always helps the interest level. So thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Mark.
Oh, very good, Mark. Right on point. And our next evaluator for Mark's speech is Thelma Warner. Thelma, what did you see?
Thank you, Master Evaluator, General Evaluator. Our Oregon Trail, I was very impressed with your journey, Mark, and it was your whole entire journey was very surreal to me. The distance that you went and the map was a great addition to show us your trail and how far you went. I think it was wonderful. It was a very meaningful speech. I love the creativity shown, especially with your show of pictures. Your creativity there, you did a great job with that. The pictures were excellent. The sharing of your facts and creating awareness, and your cause was so worthwhile. It was interesting, and it was an interesting event, and the travel and the pictures, I couldn't even imagine you riding a bicycle that far. and you told me it took you 22 days, and that's amazing. I like that you shared your website, because that's good. Anybody that would like to get in contact with you, that's good that you added that. The key facts was good for awareness. You handled your speech very, very well, and it was very effective. Your vocal variety was wonderful, and I liked everything about your speech, but I would like to see you work more on your gestures and maybe your eye contact, and I think if you should challenge yourself to allow more time for your question and answer, because the purpose of your project was for the members to learn about practicing and facilitating questions and answers. And I think that if you had allowed a little bit more time for that, we could have gotten more questions in and answers and seen that in play more, which is what your speech was the purpose of your speech was. But overall, everything you shared with us, the facts were phenomenal. And I enjoyed your speech, and I love the pictures, and I like the fact that you showed us every area you went to and the things you experienced in those areas. So overall, you did a wonderful job. Thank you very much, Master General Evaluator.
Okay, thank you, Thelma. Very good evaluation. And finally, for our third speaker, who is Pat O'Brien, we had Gwendolyn Westland. Gwendolyn, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Pat, I thought you did an excellent job. I really like that you detailed the before and afters of what you could do and what you're definitely looking forward to doing more of in the future. I thought you had a great voice. I thought you spoke very clearly. You held our interest. I would say eye contact could be a little bit better, and maybe challenge yourself and add a picture or two, perhaps with your grandchildren, something to kind of pull people in emotionally. But yeah, I thought it was great overall.
Okay, Gwendolyn, very good.
Thank you.
And let's take a look at our grammarian. Michael, what did you find from our speakers?
All righty, thank you, thank you. I found out from our speakers, it was my pleasure really to listen to all of the speeches. All of the speeches were excellent. They were great speeches. And I particularly liked the ways, I believe it was Steve who used the term biological body functions in their daily descriptions of things they go through during the day, which I found was kind of interesting. And he used the phrase of winner takes all. This shows a lot of togetherness and creativity in trying to get things done. Also, with the word of today, quite a few people used the word of today. Emily was the first to use it. Delma used it in her chat. Nikita used it in the questions in her table topics. Christina and Pat, everybody put that surreal right into their presentation. And listening to the speeches, there were a few instances where there were some repeat phrases that were used quite often. So was used quite a bit, and ahs. I think we kind of sometimes seem like we get to a point where we fill in just a little bit and we kind of throw those words out there. So they were used a little more frequently than before. But all in all of the speeches were really great. If we can kind of just catch our ums and ahs, and just like I just did, we can have a really good time and have really great speeches. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael. Now let's find out how we did time-wise. And we're keeping an eye on the clock right now. Mark Royer, go ahead.
So for our three prepared speeches, all three of them fell within the allotted times. The first two were kind of almost right in the middle. Pat's was pushing the edge of the 4 to 6 minute window, but it still fell within the window. So we were all good on those. For the other, let's see, the icebreakers, or wait, let's see, did I do the table topics? There were a few individuals that fell slightly short of the 1 to 2 minute allotted times, but other than that, everybody else was right there where they needed to be as well. So generally, we hit everything, all the time requirements that we were supposed to hit.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark. Well, looking at the time, it's about that. We need to wrap it up here. And overall, I think we had a great meeting, interesting topics, great speeches, and wonderful personalities that we got to see here today. So finally, let's turn it back to Emily, and we'll say goodnight after this. Emily.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be Toastmaster for the club. I'm sorry that I'm so backlit. I won't do this from bed again. And thank you to the speakers, excellent questions. And by some miracle, we are on time tonight. I don't know how that happened. I will turn that over to our president for club remarks and club business now. Thank you, everybody.
So our first point of business, Emily, thank you, is to thank all of you. It was a fabulous meeting. I'm going to stop the recording so that we can be stopped in time. And we are